Welcome back, and it's been a while since we have done a football related video on Sportic, but today we have predicting or filling out the bracket for the UEFA Champions League knockout stage for 2025. Of course, this year there was a round of 32, more of a playoff round of, was it 20 teams, 24 teams before the round finished, but now it's a round of 16, it's the big boy stuff. No Man City, of course, Real Madrid knocked them out, but we'll get onto that in a moment. And I have my friend with me here. We'll be filling out the bracket, and we might have some debate regarding certain matchups, but we'll come to a resolution and agreement, and we'll go all the way to the final, but more of an emphasis on the round of 16. So let's get straight into it. PSV versus Arsenal. PSV coming off that big win over Juventus. Juventus fans were not happy about that. They really want Thiago Motta to be sacked, but this is not about Juventus, it's about PSV and Arsenal. And what do you think? PSV former Champions League winners, something Arsenal can't say they are.
I don't think Arsenal have anything to play for. They're an EPL wannabe, and I think the fact that they cannot win the EPL, they'd say they're going to put all their chips in for the UCL, but I think this might be another Dutch fairy tale story.
I do believe that Arsenal will struggle, but I wouldn't say they'll be knocked out in the round of 16, given that they are a good team. They're fallen flat again in the Premier League. That likely be the third season in a row where they likely will finish in that runner-up second position. No one cares about the runner-up and rarely remembers it, but in this Champions League, I think they're a bit too strong for PSV.
I think sometimes though, this is a bit of momentum, especially in this new format, and that first leg at PSV's Philips Stadion. If they do have a good result, I think
puts pressure on the Arsenal.
I think more than ever.
If you want to go with the upset, you're more than welcome.
I think we're going with the upset.
Okay, that's
PSV.
That's more so your pick.
I see like a 2-1.
Regardless,
2-1 on aggregate.
I didn't have Arsenal going very far anyway, and that leads into the next matchup of Real Madrid versus, as they have here, Atleti, the crosstown rivalry derby.
Well, Real Madrid with that momentum probably beating, well, not this year, but for the last 6-7 years, the most consistent European team. Do they have that momentum? Does it continue? Or do I go against everything I stood for in that last leg?
Atletico Madrid,
PSV,
they're actually above Real Madrid on the standings for the La Liga. Real Madrid, of course, the powerhouse of the Champions League, always have been, likely always will be, and they have the wood over Atletico Madrid. But if you're ever going to be your big brother, it's likely going to be in a round of 16. But even here, I don't back Atletico Madrid.
We just played a FIFA match as well, and Atleti won 4-3 on that one. So I want to go with the Atleti boys, especially with Julian Alvarez bringing over that championship experience. Perhaps I think it might be another upset.
No, I don't think so. Over 2 legs, Real Madrid are far too strong, and this is where we'll see the full capability, the full power of an Mbappe-led Real Madrid.
When is Real Madrid going to hit their peak this season? I don't think they have.
They've slowly gotten into a bit of a peak. They had a loss on the weekend against Real Betis.
Anthony's Real Betis.
But I do think that maybe it's a loss to regather them, a bit of a shock, and perhaps to wake up for this big matchup against Atleti.
Just to take away from that as well, what did you think of Anthony's message to Manchester United?
Which is?
Ruining his career when he pulled his shirt up. He is on loan. He hasn't been sold.
A lot of players are on loan from Man United, including Sancho and Rashford.
I don't think a lot of them will be going back, hence their messaging.
But I can't look past Real Madrid here, and just out of respect almost, you have to pick them. Atletico Madrid, Simeone, he's got, a big issue mentally facing Real Madrid. The team as a whole does. Just so much history going against them. Personally, I can't look past Real Madrid. Paris, PSG versus Liverpool. This is a massive matchup. PSG actually undefeated in Ligue 1. Liverpool, top of the table, I think 11 points clear or so now in the EPL. But PSG very much struggled in the group stage, but did beat, was it Brest 7-0 in the Champions League? 10-0, sorry.
10-0 aggregate.
It's going to be a really hard matchup. That first leg, once again, in Paris.
I think no one's talking about Paris because there's no more Messi, there's no more Neymar, there's no more...
But you got Dembele who's on fire. Dembele scoring crazy amounts of goals.
It's the underrated teams that go far. And again, they might cause Liverpool's trouble, especially in that first leg.
But Liverpool, aside from that very last match in the Champions League, which they did lose, but they fielded a B team or a C team even. They were undefeated until that point, something like 7 wins, 0 losses to that point. Of course, as I said, right up there in the Champions League, Premier League standings. But given the fact that we did call the upset for Arsenal, I feel like we should show some sort of respect to
the
Premier
League.
League.
The other matches, I just think they get through. I think they hold on
that
for a 0-0, 1-1 draw, and they take care of business in Anfield.
But I wouldn't be surprised if PSG do get a win in that first leg. Club Brugge versus Aston Villa. Yeah. Aston Villa, we've talked about Real Madrid players poaching PSG's actually, but historically Real Madrid's Marco Asensio, and Club Brugge with a massive win over Atalanta. What a crazy matchup that was. In the end, winning by a few goals over the course of the two matches.
This is going to be anyone's game. I think Club Brugge went above and beyond what everyone thought they were capable of. And with Aston Villa, it's great to see a big club of the 1990s,
former Champions League
winner
European
back
Cup.
In the knockout stages. And I think if I was Emery, I'd go and channel that inner Champions League tradition that Aston Villa have to get the players up and going.
Talk about their history.
Talk about the history.
Well, there's a lot of history of winners there as well. Marco Asensio got Martinez, a World Cup winner.
Yep.
And Rashford could be the X factor. Rashford, of course, hasn't been himself the last couple of years, but he has hit the ground running at Aston Villa, and he could bring a bit of X factor on that wing. And I think that Club Brugge peaked against Atalanta, and that was their final to some extent. But you never know over the course of two legs, but I'm pretty comfortable and confident in picking Aston Villa. Moving on to Benfica versus Barcelona. The X factor in this match is Angel Di Maria, who will be coming off injury. Di Maria, a multiple time, actually maybe only one time, a Champions League winner and a World Cup winner, but we're going on a tangent there, or I am. Barcelona, La Liga leaders after this weekend. Benfica second in the Portuguese league.
Benfica's a glorified round of 16 Champions League team, and it's going to continue. Who are we going to say that they're going to beat Barcelona?
Yamal matches up just too much for
Rafinha, Lewandowski. I can go on, and I think the Hansi Flick
midfield Pedri
this year is going to continue. Definitely, I think it's Barcelona.
I think Barcelona are very strong from goalkeeper with Szczesny all the way to the top with Lewandowski, the Polish connection there. And moving on, two teams who are very much not in form. It's a bit of a slugfest here. Borussia Dortmund, 10th in the Bundesliga, reaching the finals last year of this competition, versus Lille, who are 5th place in Ligue 1. Dortmund, very messy. They're actually spearheaded by Guirassy, who is a bit of a, scorer, but being 10th in the Bundesliga doesn't really bode well for your chances in the Champions League.
I think Dortmund, opposite to Benfica, play their best football in the Champions League, as shown by their past results over the last 10 years or so. So I think, again, noting similar to Arsenal above, they have no chance of winning the Bundesliga this year. They're going to put in all their chips into the UCL. And what? Who do we think? Who's going to carry Lille?
Does Jonathan Davis still play for Lille? I don't even think so. I will struggle to.
He does. There's a lot of rumors about him going to, I think, even Arsenal.
These teams are actually quite lucky to be facing off against one another because, let's be honest, both of them are playing pretty poor football at the moment. But I think just based on the home crowd, Signal Iduna Park, the history they have last year coming off, a lot of the players still there. Of course, a few players leaving as well. But Dortmund, that core, for the most part, is still there, and I backed them to make a quarterfinal once again. And here we go. My favourite matchup of this round of 16. It's the two teams that were tussling out this year in the Bundesliga, but more specifically last year in the Bundesliga, where Leverkusen went invincible. And here we go. Bayern Munich versus Leverkusen, 1 versus 2 in the Bundesliga. So many star players. Leverkusen, perhaps the last year under Xabi Alonso. I'm quite unsure about this matchup, but Bayern Munich are playing very well recently.
I think there's only one Bayern, and again, last year was...
Well, actually, it's Bayer, based on the pharmaceutical company, if that's okay.
Apologies to all Bayer supporters out there. But I think that 8-point gap in the Bundesliga with a double goal difference as well, pretty much a double goal difference. Bayern is a different team this year. Vincent Kompany has brought in that winning mentality. Harry Kane's probably going to win multiple trophies this year for the first time in his career. And I think it's going to be a comfortable 6-0 on aggregate.
He said multiple trophies. He's never actually won a trophy.
No, he's going to win the Bundesliga. He's going to win that.
In terms of the matchup, Leverkusen, when was the last time Munich actually beat Leverkusen? I think a couple of years back.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's 2 legs. It's the 2 legs as well.
Leverkusen, they did draw earlier in this Bundesliga season. But are we backing Bayern Munich?
I think backing Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich are very strong in the Champions League.
6-0 aggregate.
They very rarely lose early. Feyenoord versus Inter. Inter tied for first. I believe they are first in Serie A recently, drawing against fellow Serie A leaders Napoli. Inter Milan were actually my pick prior to this whole round of 32 or playoff round to win the entire Champions League because they have a pretty favourable draw against Feyenoord.
I think it's, I know Feyenoord have a new coach in the Dutch legend Robin van Persie. I think a new coach in the middle of the season doesn't bode well for
Feyenoord.
I think it's a comfortable Lautaro Martinez-led victory for Inter.
Feyenoord beating Inter Milan's rivals AC Milan to get to this stage. A bit of confidence going to the San Siro perhaps, but it's going to be very tough to beat a Milan team once again. So we'll be going with Inter Milan for this matchup.
And the better Milan team, that is.
The better Milan team. Going back up to the top we go. PSV versus Real Madrid. What an interesting matchup. I think this could be personally quite close. And PSV, they've got some players, But Real Madrid...
Name me one.
Luke de Jong.
Luke de Jong. Apparently PSV have the best young players in academy in Europe, and you're going to name me the oldest Dutch player on that list.
Another old player, as some would say, Ivan Perisic, who's actually revived his career and he's actually doing very well in Eindhoven or at Eindhoven.
And Malacia as well, left back from Manchester United, another Manchester United
career
reject.
Revival, went back to his former team.
Jonathan Bakayoko.
That's enough. You're looking at.
I am.
Jonathan
Beerman as well.
It's a solid team.
It is a good team.
And it's a tough away fixture, as are most of the teams here. But Real Madrid, they will dominate in the Netherlands. And even if they were to verse Arsenal, I reckon PSV could put up a better fight than Arsenal. But that being said, Real Madrid for me goes to the semi-final, and I'm not going to...
I think that's a safe pick, but let's not...
Mbappe is, I think it's actually the player they need to keep winning, because if they didn't add someone, they could get complacent and they could go backwards. Moving on to a Premier League rivalry of sorts here, Liverpool versus Aston Villa.
What do we say? Again, difficult to go past Liverpool. So far ahead in the EPL table.
I assume Liverpool beat Aston Villa prior in this Premier League season. They drew recently this season, but Liverpool did beat them at home 2-0 last year or earlier this season. And Liverpool, they're just so strong from top to bottom. Mo Salah in the form of his life, arguably. Trent Alexander-Arnold potentially in his last season for Liverpool, potentially leaving to a team that was aforementioned in this video. But that being said, I just don't see how Liverpool can lose at home to anyone. And that
Agreed. Agreed. I think it's going to be a Liverpool victory. I think it's going to be close early on, possibly even across, in the 30th minute of the second leg. But I think they're going to break away once they play at home.
Just too strong, in my opinion. What else can Aston Villa field? Asensio, Rashford.
It's a good defence as well.
Jalen
Torres
Ramsey
against that fast, dynamic forward line.
I think it's just too much skill in Liverpool. Barcelona versus Borussia Dortmund, and I think we could see an absolute shellacking. I think Barcelona could potentially put Dortmund into a rebuild if they aren't already.
It might be that Brazil versus Germany 7-1 result, something like that.
I think it could get messy here. I think it may be a 7-1 and 8-2 sort of result. That is pretty bold to say, but I think Barcelona can score goals in bunches, but they can also concede a lot, as was seen in the Atletico Madrid matchup recently.
Big match.
And this is the biggest match, in my opinion, of a potential quarterfinal. Bayern Munich versus Inter Milan. And I'm quite torn on this one. I think I might need to lean onto your opinion here.
I was also on the Inter train. At the start of the UCL and throughout the Champions League group stages. But however, just watching Bayern Munich recently, they just seem more dynamic. And I think that competition that they have in the Bundesliga to win is affecting their ability in a positive way in the Champions League as well. I think they just got that winning feeling about them this year. That dog in them. Yes.
For what it's worth, I would pick Inter Milan maybe against any other team in the quarterfinals, but against Bayern Munich, I just think Bayern Munich is on a roll this year.
I just think Inter's a lesser Bayern across the board a little bit. You're saying the Inter from, the 2000s, 2010 period.
They're a good team, but they're lacking superstars.
I think
Unless you count Martinez.
And this is Bayern Munich's revenge tour this year.
And Bayern Munich, yes, want to make up for that pretty poor season last year.
4 in the semi-final.
How about we stick with the bottom section and go with this Barcelona-Bayern Munich matchup?
I think, again, just from what we just discussed there, I think it's that revenge tour.
They've got some skeletons.
Barcelona have had a great season under Hansi Flick, but they have been unreliable and inconsistent.
We have to talk about also how Barcelona has had a long history of struggling against Bayern Munich. Historically, especially in the last 5, 6, 7 years. Of course, Lewandowski is playing for Barcelona nowadays, but it's going to be hard to, beat them. As similar to how Atletico Madrid have struggled against Real Madrid, Barcelona, that home crowd advantage isn't that big at that temporary Olympic Stadium in Barcelona. And Bayern Munich, the crowd is very loud, very boisterous, and it's very hard to win away from home if you're playing against Bayern Munich. Lamine Yamal could be the X factor. They need Lewandowski returning to play Bayern Munich in Munich. But Bayern Munich, as we have sort of, referred to during this video, they're our pick to make the final of the Champions League in 2025.
Now,
moving on up.
Now, this one, I think this is not an argument of who's more likely to win. Obviously that's what we're looking at. But I think it's more an argument between Mo Salah and Kylian Mbappe. Now, who's going to win the Ballon d'Or? Whoever wins this match will win the Ballon d'Or.
Well, also, perhaps Mbappe will need to win the La Liga to win a Ballon d'Or, but...
For sure, but that Ballon d'Or, it's a different thing. It's a different beast these days. I think people use it as motivation, not even the players themselves that are in contention to win the Ballon d'Or, but the team itself. We all saw when Vinicius didn't win it last year, how Real Madrid was outraged itself. So I think anything that the team can do to help a player win the Ballon d'Or, they will do. So that's why I think this matchup is going to go to the last minute. And again, how can you bet against the best Champions League team of all time?
Real Madrid. And to be honest, I think Real Madrid have the wood over Liverpool. This is always like the matchups. Recently, a couple of years back, Real Madrid won, I think, by 4+ goals over 2 legs. Beat them convincingly at Anfield, which we just talked about who can beat Liverpool at Anfield. Of course, a different team. But Liverpool, they're peaking this season, and it's going to be hard to keep that form going deep into April.
I think this might be, obviously Liverpool have had a great season and will win the EPL, but I think this is their last Champions League run in a long time. I think this is going to be the end of an era. See you later, Salah. He's going to Saudi Arabia. Van Dijk's probably going to join his PSV brothers back in Dutchland.
That's what we said last year, but you never know.
No,
Liverpool,
definitely.
of course, were in the Europa League, but Liverpool will be a force to be reckoned with for years to come, very most likely. But Real Madrid is just something that you're drawn into when you pick the Champions League, and we have far too often looked past Real Madrid in this competition. Time and time again, they've told us to stop being fucking idiots and pick Real Madrid. And the final, or potential final, Real Madrid versus Bayern Munich. We won't talk about it all too much because, as I have already mentioned, it's just a potential matchup. But what do you think?
I think it's Bayern Munich. And to be fair, it's 3 things. I think 1, revenge tour, Bayern Munich. I think they're due. 2, talking about due, I think Real Madrid are due a loss in a final of the Champions League. Yeah. And 3, I think it's actually Real Madrid's, I wouldn't say leaky defense, but injury-riddled defense. Militao's out with a ACL for the season. Rudiger's been injured with the hamstring. Alaba's been injured throughout. He is back, but it's their whole team, I think. And by the time Carvajal out with his ACL, and I think just
he arguably won him the final last year.
And I think that Bayern Munich depth in their front line, I think it's just going to make that difference.
And injury-free for the most part for now.
Of course.
And I think whereabouts is the final being played this year? And exactly, it's being played in Munich. And 13 years ago, in 2012, Bayern Munich lost to Chelsea in Munich. So this would be a great chance for Munich or Bayern Munich to right their wrongs and win in Munich in 2025. And that's why for now, Sportic is picking Bayern Munich to win the 2025 Champions League final against Real Madrid. Let us know in the comments down below what you think will happen. And of course, be free to criticize our picks. But we'll be back very soon to discuss the Champions League and all other sports. Thank you, and until next time.